I guess we'll wait for the live stream to start, and then I will introduce you, and then you will start.
Okay.
Just waiting for the stream. All right. So guys, thanks a lot for showing up again for another African Debates session. And here we are Africans who want to discuss the Christian faith, really, in light of the history of the continent, the present day realities, and what the future holds. And so today we are discussing something that has been in around the circles of religious and irreligious folks a bit, called Kemet. And we'll see what's going to transpire from the conversation in relation to Christianity, and maybe we might talk about atheism a little bit, but mostly it's Kemet and Christianity. And so before we start, I will share something from a website of one of the, wait a second, a website of one of the debaters. And so the debater is Ben, and he will talk more about himself, but he's from Apologetics Kenya, and there's a conference coming up. And the website, apologeticskenya.org, has information on the conference, which will be going on from 21st to 25th of next month. And so the details for registration are here. And yeah, so you can just go check it out. But without further ado, I will stop my share and allow Ben to come in and start his presentation. So Ben, whenever you're ready, you can start your 15 minutes of presentation. Yeah, Ben, whenever you're ready, you can start your video and start your presentation.
All right. I think I'm ready. Just let me ensure that everything is okay here. Let me put my phone on silent so that you don't have to be disturbed here. Share my screen.
So whenever you start, I will start the timer.
All right. I think I'm ready now.
Yeah, you can just start.
All right. Thank you, Charles. As you've heard, my name is Ben Buke. I am serving with Apologetics Kenya here, and I'm a believer in the Lord, and I love Jesus, and I thank God for this opportunity to be able to stand here, or to be able to come here and share on the truth of Christianity, and as we even compare that with Kemetic spirituality. And so I just want to talk about Christianity and why Christianity, but more specifically, why Christ over Kemetic spirituality. So I'll speak for Christianity. And so what I'm hoping to do is, as part of the introduction, these are three things or three questions that we are going to ask as we get into this discussion. So question number one is, does Christianity conform to reality? Is it a copy of Kemeticism? Does it liberate Africans? So those are the three questions that I'm going to go through together go through in this presentation, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to follow through and see really what this is all about. Okay, good. So now I'll begin by saying that this is actually a battle of worldviews. As we talk about Christianity and Kemeticism, this is about a battle of worldviews. And our choices as human beings or anybody, our choices are shaped by what we believe is real and true, right and wrong, good and beautiful. So our choices are shaped by our worldview. But I see someone may be wondering what is a worldview, but a worldview is simply a sum or the sum total of our beliefs. That is the big picture that directs our daily decisions and actions. And that is the definition by Nancy Pearcey and Charles Colson in their book, How Now Shall We Live? It is the lenses through which we see reality. I mean, that is the worldview. And in that sense, Christianity and Kemeticism are worldviews among many. We have many worldviews, as you may know. And so, but the major test then for us will be to discover what is true and live in step with that truth. That will be the major test. And so the goal, my goal today is this, is to show you that Christianity is the whole truth for the whole of life. And by embracing it, you will see that our lives are not only transformed, but then we can be able to see reality for what it really is. And we can be able to make even sense of reality and everything in the world that we are living in today. Okay, good. And so how do we test our worldview? Kemeticism and Christianity, both of them are worldviews, and there are many out there. So how do we test our worldview? If the goal is to know the truth and then live in step by that truth, so how do we test our worldview? And I will say that fundamentally worldviews contradict each other, as in this case, and all of them cannot be true. Therefore, one of them must be true. So what criteria can we use, or what criteria can we actually use? And I've actually found this to be very helpful, that any worldview should answer the questions about reality. So what are these questions about reality that every human being actually grapples with? The first question about reality is this: where did we come from and who are we? And that is the question of creation or origin. And then question number 2 is, what has gone wrong with the world? Because the world seems not to be the way it is. Something seems to be wrong with the world. So what has gone wrong with the world? That is the fall. And then how do we fix it? That is what I call redemption. And so, how does Christianity answer these 3 above questions? And my argument is that Christianity answers these 3 questions in a manner that it can be nothing but apart from the truth. And that is what I'm actually going to show us in this presentation. So 1, the issue of creation, the question of where do we come from? And the basis of Christian worldview is actually the Bible. When you read Genesis chapter 1, the Bible begins by saying, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And in John, that is chapter 1 from verse 1 to 14, the Bible says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was with God. And so the word here, John is referring to actually Jesus, who is the Word, that through him and in him all things were made, so that without him, nothing has been made that was made. So from the Christian perspective is that everything came from God. Everything was created through Jesus and for Jesus. And that means, therefore, there is no meaning and purpose apart from him. There's no meaning and purpose apart from him. And God created our bodies, our moral laws to keep us healthy, and all of us know that we have a sense of what is right and wrong, and that one comes from God. That is the teaching of Christianity, and that God is the one who created our minds, is the one who created the laws of logic, and is the one who created even our imagination. And that means that our identity as human beings is not found then by independence from him, but our identity as human beings is found by finding God. That Jesus Christ is the Alpha and the Omega. He's the embodiment of all truth. And so I will argue and say that Christianity, therefore, is the ultimate reality the all-encompassing truth. And actually, when Paul was in Athens and he was speaking to people who had so many gods, and I think one of the characteristics of Kemeticism is that its foundation is actually ancient Egyptian paganism, and is one of its defining characteristics is a myriad of gods and pantheon of gods. And so when Paul was standing here and speaking to them about the truth of Christianity, that is in the book of Acts chapter 17, Paul stands and presents the truth of Christianity, and he tells them, let me just read that portion right now here and see what Paul says. So Paul speaks to these guys who have got so many gods. They used to sacrifice to them. In fact, they even had an altar called to their non-god because they had so many gods. So they actually thought probably there is a god we might have left out. So let us put an altar called to the unknown God. So Paul says that the God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands. And he is not served by human hands as if he needed anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. From one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times in history and their boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they will seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live, move, and have our being, as some of your poets have written. Therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human hand. That is what actually Paul is saying. That God, the God of Christianity, is the God who stands out as the creator of every human being, of every man, and he determined their locations and their
10 minutes left, Ben. Huh?
All right, thank you for that reminder. And he actually determined their locations and their places. And so that is number one. Number one is that God is the creator of the heavens and the earth. He is the beginning of everything. And life has got no meaning or purpose apart from him. All of us derive our identity in God who created everything and every human being who lives upon this earth. Now, the second thing that we should actually be asking ourselves, and it is an issue of when you look at the world today, you almost always ask yourself, things are not the way they ought to be. Things seem to be better, but the world seems to be broken. And no one can actually be able to deny that fact, that the world is broken. What about the paradox of humanity? That in the human heart, we have both the capability of being good, that is doing good, and doing evil. And history actually reveals that to us, that creation is not only broken, but even man is broken in himself. And Hitler is actually an example who killed like 6 million Jews. And not only so, but even our own country. What explains the injustice we see? What explains the corruption that we see? People killing one another, people murdering one another. And so man is capable of evil, much evil. But what explains this brokenness? What explains the brokenness we see in the world and the brokenness we actually see in man? What explains this? And the Bible does a very good job by explaining where this brokenness comes from. And the Bible says that this brokenness came from man's independence of God. That man wanted to be his own God. And we see that one in the book of Genesis chapter 3, that God put man in a very perfect environment and he provided everything he actually needed and he took care of their needs. And God gave them only one law: do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of life, of good and evil. For if you do that, you shall surely die. But man wanted to be his own God. He wanted to define what is right and what is wrong by himself. And by doing that, he fell and disobeyed God, and he fell away from God. So the image of God in man was mad, and now man caved in on himself, and he became selfish. And all the four relationships were affected. That's the relationship between man and God, the relationship between man and woman, the relationship between man and the environment, and the relationship between man and himself. All these four relationships were affected because of man's independence from God himself. So the brokenness we see in this world is as a result of man's disobedience, choosing to be independent of him. Now, but again, Christianity also does a good job of telling us, how do we fix humanity? Yes, it is broken, but how do we fix it? How do we redeem it? In Genesis 3:15, God promised a Messiah will come to redeem all humanity. And in history, his word came true by the coming of Jesus. That God became man and redeemed man from the curse of sin, and that in Jesus Christ, all humanity is redeemed and all relationships are redeemed. That man whose relationship was previously wrecked between him and God is actually restored. And Christ dies and he pays for the sins of humanity and he redeems them. He redeems man to God and he redeems even the relationships of man. And John Lennox in his book, Christianity, Opium of Truth, says this, that how then can he be saved, talking about man? Certainly not by independence of God. That is the cause of his trouble, not the cure, nor even by religious rituals and good works. Speaking to a man who was already very religious, Christ put it this way: that which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. Do not marvel that I say to you, you must be born again. And the solution for humanity is the creation of the new man. And that is not an element that we actually find in Kemeticism in itself. And so I will argue that actually Kemeticism, with the many pantheon of gods and the myriad of gods, is as a result of man falling away and he, in his own efforts, trying to actually create their own gods apart from the God who is true, one and God who created all humanity.
4 minutes left, huh?
3 minutes, huh?
4.
4, okay, thank you. And so, by repenting and putting our faith in Jesus, we have total transformation. And I want just to read this. This is a testimony of a guy. His name is one of the inmates in prison. That is in Garcia Moreno in Ecuador. And this man, after coming to prison, and he comes across Jesus Christ, and he says, coming to this prison is the best thing that ever occurred or happened to me. I found Jesus here. I just want others to know that this place is not the end. There is hope. God can change us even here, especially here. Why should a man say like this in prison? Why should he say that coming to prison is the best thing that happened to me because I found Jesus? It is because the ultimate reality and the ultimate satisfaction of the human heart is by finding Jesus, his own God. But how do we verify this? Jesus claimed to be God, and Jesus validated his claims by rising from the dead. And there are so many reasons for believing Jesus rose from the dead. But one of them is the empty tomb. Number 2 is the eyewitnesses' testimony, people who are willing not to recant Jesus, even to their death. Now, people die for things they do not know it is a lie, but people don't die for things they know is a lie. But these guys went to their death because they believed that Christ rose from the dead. And another thing is the existence of Christianity from the first century. What explains the existence of Christianity? And I agree with someone who said that it is not the Christians who created the resurrection, but it is the resurrection that created Christians. And that explains the existence of Christianity. Therefore, in conclusion, Christianity conforms to reality as we know it, answering the above questions we have talked about, the question of origin, the question of the brokenness, and the question of redemption. Number two, it is not a copycat. It stands out. You cannot compare Christianity with Kemeticism. Number three, Christianity is truth. It's the truth of Christianity is universal, liberating all humankind, Africans being part of it. I just read the words of Matthew Perry, who Paris was an atheist here. And this is from baptistpress.com. Matthew Paris says that now a confirmed atheist, Paris wrote after his visit to Malawi last year, I've become convinced, these are his words, I've become convinced of the enormous contribution that Christian evangelism makes in Africa, sharply distinct from the work of secular NGOs, government projects, and international aid efforts. This alone will not do. Education and training alone will not do. In Africa, Christianity changes people's hearts. It brings a spiritual transformation. The rebirth is real. The change is good. And he concludes by saying, removing Christianity and Christian evangelism from the African equation may leave the continent at the mercy of a malign fusion of Nike, the witch doctor,
1 minute left, huh?
the mobile phone, thank you, and the machete. So Christianity is the whole truth for the whole of life. That is what ultimately liberates humankind, by finding God, not being independent of him. Thank you.
All right. I guess you can remove your presentation as the Interceder gets his ready. Let me just confirm that the Interceder, if you can unmute and to confirm you are okay, you can start. You can stop sharing. So the Interceder, if you can put your video on and share your presentation.
Hey,
Oh, are you able to share your presentation?
to share my presentation. Can I
Yeah.
share it as audio? Can I share it as audio?
Your audio seems to have a problem. I don't know if it's only my end or it's...
Let me check this related to net problem.
for
Can
some
you hear me
reason
now? Yeah?
Oh yeah, I can hear. It's just it's not very clear. Is it only me or I don't know?
Is it
I hope it's... can anyone else hear the Interceder clearly?
I'm not getting him clearly.
what about now?
It's not very clear. I don't know if it's yeah, it's breaking. Wonder why.
What about now?
Okay, it's kind of okay.
Yeah.
Are you able to share your presentation?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, just share it, and then we see how we go. I just share it first, and then after you've shared, then we can start the timer.
Okay.
Pardon?
Yep. Were there some questions?
Oh no, there's a presentation that you have prepared or you had not prepared one? Pardon?
Hello. I have prepared a presentation.
Oh, your audio is very bad. I don't know if you can hear it from your end. We can't hear what you're saying.
Yes. Can
Okay,
you hear
now
it
it's
now?
clear. Yeah, now you can hear. I don't know if you are far away from your mic or I don't know. Now, because now it's clear.
Okay. So
Okay, now it's clear.
I'll start with the story of Jesus.
Okay, now it's disappeared again. I don't know. It's like you're moving
What
away
about
from
now?
your mic. Yeah, now it's okay. I don't know.
What about
Is there something that... Now it's okay, but it seems like it's changing. Let me
it's
remove
changing?
my video. Okay, I've
Yeah.
removed my video. And
Is it okay now?
Okay, now it
Hello?
I guess it's okay. Yeah, you can go on. Just go
Okay.
on. Huh? Just start.
Okay, Christianity is a copycat from the Kemet spirituality, especially the story of Jesus and the story of Moses. A lot of characters were copied from ancient Egypt. Some of
Oh,
them are
just before
Moses,
you continue.
Abraham.
Oh, Interceder, before you
I'm
continue,
saying,
is it possible to have your video on, or just for the sake of the recording,
and
or
not possible today, but next time I'll be live on video.
okay, because it will be a bit. And what about your
In the next,
presentation? Do you have it?
yes, I have it. Hello?
Yeah, could you please share it so that we can be able to see on the screen? If you can share it through the Zoom option, the share screen option.
I
Similar
don't
to
think
like
I have
what
a
Ben.
presentation.
Or you
Hello?
don't have a presentation.
I don't have a written presentation, but I have some knowledge about the origins of religion. I
Okay,
can just say
okay, you
it.
can continue. Okay, just give your oral presentation, and then
Yeah.
you have 20 minutes max. You can continue.
Okay. First of all, Adam and Eve did not exist. They were copied from various people and nature. First of all, Aten the son. Aten became Adam, and then there was a story of Sishat and Toudi. So Tohudi received a fruit of knowledge from Sishat. Sishat was the daughter of Toudi. So the daughter of Toudi gave him the fruit of knowledge. That was spiritual. Anything that was seen as a miracle, or things that many religious stories take them as physical or literal. There was just spiritual explanations from the priests of Kemet, Nubia, and Kush. Ancient Nubia was called Kasseti, and ancient Kush is now Ethiopia. Now, ancient Kasseti was Sudan, and Sudan is where the gods and goddesses came from. So those gods are Heru, Set, Osiris, and Auset. They all come from Nubia. And then the most famous god in the ancient Egypt spirituality is Amen-Ra. Amen-Ra came from Kush. The timeline is 6000 BC for Heru, Ase, Asa, and Set. And the story of according to most historians, the timeline goes to 7000 BC. Another thing that he copied about Adam and Eve was the land of Ethiopia, where
your audio is breaking again.
hello,
Your audio
is
is
it
breaking.
okay now? Is it
No,
okay
there
now?
seems to be a problem. Might you know what is causing the problem?
Maybe network error, like network error. Hello?
I don't know. Yeah, you can continue. It's just that
Is
there's a lot of breaking. So like we are not hearing everything that you're saying.
it okay?
Maybe I can stop
Hello?
this. Let me see.
Hello?
Okay, I can hear now. I'm just
Yes.
trying to see. Okay. Okay, you can just try to continue.
Yes.
Just continue speaking because we are hearing most of it. So you can just continue.
All right. According to the according to the religious books, the world is 6,000 years, but the story of Osiris goes to 6,000 BC. That's 8,000 years from now. So religions like that the world is 6,000 years. And the Soma was discovered 789 BC, while Kemet is more than 5660 BC. When the first pharaoh took over Kemet from Taseti. Taseti is Nubia or Sudan right now. And then the story of Jesus, the Christ. Christ was created as a person called Serapis. Serapis was the it was called Serapis, and he was created 325 BC. And
You're breaking
BCE
up
means
again, huh? Okay, I think now you're back. Okay, continue.
Okay. BCE means before coming era, and then AD means the day of the Lord. That's the meaning in the translation of Latin. It doesn't mean after death. AD doesn't mean after death. And then the Serapis Christus was made white 135 BCE. He was a combination of Asa, Heru, and Zeus. And Zeus was not a white god. He was a black person from Ethiopia. He was the one who ruled the Greek religion. And then the worshippers of Serapis called themselves worshippers of Christ or Christians. And then the people who devoted to the god Serapis called themselves Bishop of Christ. That was 134 AD. When Sumeria were at the first government, ancient Egypt was already in the 11th to 12th dynasty. The pharaoh, there's something called Lion of Judah. In Egypt, they call it Lion of Kemet or Horemaket. The Greeks called it Sphinx. The reason why in the historical account Jesus has short hair and Jesus never existed, the person they corrupted to Jesus is someone called Yeshua. Yeshua was an Asian, but he had short hair, but he has long hair because they wanted to call him Lion of Judah. Lion of Judah, they copied from Lion of Kemet, from Horemaket, and there was a lion goddess called Sekhmet, where they copied the Lion of Judah from. And then the ancient Egyptians did not worship nature. They did not worship nature, but they honored nature. They honored the sun for giving light. Spirituality is just the relationship with the living beings, and the environment. So they honored some important things in nature like the sun, because the sun gives light, and the stars also. This is the star for Sirius called Orion, and this a star called Sirius. That's the star of Ase, the wife of Osiris. And in the birth of their son Heru, there were gifts that were taken to Heru spiritually. The priests are the ones who did it, and that's where they copied from the story of Asa, Heru, and Ase. That's where they copied the story of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. The father of Jesus was the father of Heru was called Seb. It's another name of Osiris. So they took that Seb to Joseph. They corrupted that to Joseph. And the mother of Jesus, mother of Heru, the mother of Heru was called Ase. Another name for her was Marie. That's why they corrupted it to Mary. And before that, 4 BC, another proof that Jesus never existed. And they took stories from so many people to give Jesus. They took stories from many people to give Moses. Both Jesus and Moses never existed. There was somebody called Mary and Emmanuel. Mary was the mother of Emmanuel, 4 BC.
You have 10 minutes left, huh?
Okay. And then there's a physical resurrection of Jesus. That was copied from the resurrection of Ase and Maat. The priest usually did some explanation or spiritual explanation, because the idea of eternity came from our ancestors, the Kemites. They are the ones who came up with the idea of eternity. It's found, the evidence is in the pyramid of Unas. Unas is the one who came up with the idea of eternity. So he made priests to make images of people with wings. So Christianity took it literally and gave it to Jesus. But Jesus even never existed. Then the story of Moses and the Exodus. It didn't happen. The Exodus didn't happen. They wanted to persecute a pharaoh called Ramesu II. In the temple of Ramesu II, there's evidence of Ramesu defeating the Hittites. The people called Hittites who had enslaved the Egyptians for so many years. So it's the one who kicked them out of Kemet, and he drove them into the river. So the enemies, the Asians were drawn into the river by the Kemite army. But in the Exodus, they turned the story the other way around. But we have evidence carved in stone, the temple of Ramesu. His name is Asamatra Septependra Ramesu Meri Amen. Asa stands for Osiris. Then the Moses and the tablets commandments. Those commandments were 147 laws of Maat. They were reduced to 42, and then they were reduced to 10 commandments. And those 42 laws of Maat, they were used by ancient Egyptians. Usually practiced it every day, and it was there before Moses. And there's something that was kept at the Mount Sinai. The person who kept them at the Mount Sinai was Pharaoh Amenemhet III. It was not so. Moses was a high priest. According to religious historians, Moses was a high priest in Egypt. But the laws and the 10 commandments that was said to have been given to Moses were there before Moses. So and Moses never historically existed. And there are those people, four disciples of Jesus: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. There's nothing like, none of them existed. They were copied from the sons of Heru, called Keben Seth, Hapi, Imseti, and Duamatef. And Aten is the sun disk that were worn by the pharaohs and the kings and queens in ancient Egypt. So that's why they copied and gave it to Jesus. In the photos of Jesus, the sun behind he said, It was copied from ancient Egypt. Another thing is circumcision. Abraham did not invent circumcision, and he was not the first person to circumcise someone. The first Hebrew was not even called Abraham. Abraham was a corruption of Amram. Amram was the first Hebrew. First Hebrew went to Egypt and he saw the circumcision. It was there hundreds of years before him. So there's no way that Abraham could be the first person to do circumcision.
So you have 5 minutes left. Huh?
Okay. And then Amen-Ra is the person. It's the person that people say amen to him at the end of their prayers. In Kemet, Amen-Ra is the person who introduced the idea of one God. He introduced it, and then people say that Akhenaten was the person who introduced it. Akhenaten just reintroduced it. Amen already did it. That's why he told people to say amen at the end of their prayers. And then the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve wearing leaves to hide in the Garden of Eden after they had eaten the forbidden fruit. That story was copied from, that story was made in such a way that they were in the wrong land, because Eden, the river that they were around in the Bible, was in Africa, and they were hiding because they were in the wrong land, because they didn't have melanin. That's why they had to hide. And the story of Joseph, there was a similar story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. There was someone else who was told to lie with the queen, but he refused. The same thing was copied. The same thing was copied from the Bini Papyrus to the Bible and the Hindu text, that Joseph rejected to have sex with the wife of the master because he respected the master. In the Bini Papyrus, it's written the same. The person also refused to have sex with the king's wife because he respected the master. And the Ark of Covenant is a copy of the grave of Ammon, not the coffin of Ammon, the coffin of Ammon-Ra that was carried by bald men. The same thing, and its evidence is in the temple of Amen in Egypt. So the Christian version is just a copycat of that. And there's something called the songs of David in Psalms. Those songs of David were the songs of Pharaoh Akhenaten.
So you have 1 minute left. Huh?
All right. Christianity has no hard evidence archaeologists have found out the bone samples of some pharaohs, and even the bone. They have done tests on the bone of Osiris. They found that he existed in flesh, and there are so much evidence in ancient Egypt about the spirituality and how it was copied from to religion. There are images in some temples of Seti, like Seti I, Temple of Ramisu, Temple of Heru, Temple of Asa, Temple of Ase, pyramid in Dashur, the pyramid in Teti. So, but Christianity cannot give you hard evidence about their existence. And most people most characters in the Bible didn't exist, especially Moses, Jesus, Joseph, and even Abraham, because Abraham is corruption from another person. And what he said in the Bible is fake about him. And the Ark of Noah is a copy from New Ark. That was the Ark of the boat of Khufu that he used it to connect him with his spiritual father, Asa. And his spirituality, nothing was taken literal. Nothing was taken literally in spirituality. In religion is where they take things literally and misunderstood to enslave our African people. So our ancestors were enslaved because of religions, and the converts of religion made the African people to be colonized, and African to lose its civilization.
So Interceder time is up. So now, because it was now opening statements. So now time is up. So now what we are going to do is that we are going to get into a time of conversation. So I just want to, just a second. Before we do that, so we've just had the opening statements from the Christian and Kemet side. And so right now we'll have a conversation. So hopefully we'll be able to do it right this time. So I'll just try to moderate maybe 5%, but I am hoping you guys will be able to have a conversation with one another on whether Christianity or Kemet is true and whether you can show it is true, on whether Christianity has copied from Kemet or Kemet copied from Christianity, or probably neither, and also which one is the way forward for Africa today. So that's the conversation I want us to have for the next 10 to 15 minutes. So we will avoid the rebuttals. We'll just have this conversation and then afterwards head straight to a Q&A session. So whenever you guys are ready, you can put your videos, audio on, and we start the discussion immediately.
There I am.
So you can just start, as in it's supposed to just flow. The conversation is just supposed to flow. So you can just start with the question and then the conversation flows.
Okay.
So you have I'll say 17 minutes for the whole thing.
All right. That's okay. Yes, I've heard what Interceder has actually shared, and I think he has spent major of his time saying this was copied from that, this was copied from that, this was copied from that. Or Moses never existed. It was a corruption of this, and so he has spent much of his time talking about what allegedly Christianity has copied from those gods that he was actually talking about. And you see, one of the things I'm actually wondering is, okay, let us grant for a moment that these things he's actually talking about were copied, for the sake of argument, okay? Now, how does that make Kemetism to be true? What I wanted to hear from him is what makes him think that Kemet is actually true. Is it because you see things have been copied in Christianity and the likes? So I would love to hear really what is this that makes Kemet to be true. And also probably
Right.
also.
Oh yeah,
Sorry?
and Interceder you can come in. Yeah, so like we can ensure that we're having equal amounts of time for each debater to speak, because it's a discussion. Huh? So it's a back and
Right.
forth, like you are having a conversation. So Interceder, you can also speak. Huh? It's a back and forth.
Okay. Okay. I'm saying something that is real as some evidence. If something has evidence and the other doesn't have evidence, the one that has evidence is the real one. And there are some excavations and some research, there are research about those evidence that can make it real, but you can also do your research and confirm with your own field research.
What exactly is the kind of evidence you're talking about here?
There are some artifacts, there are some archaeological evidence, there are there are some evidence carved on the stones, especially in the pyramids and in the temples.
What are those evidences? Because you're just saying some and some. Okay. Anyway, allow me make this comment. Allow me make this comment. I have actually observed from your presentation, you talked about so many gods, and I want to believe those are the gods that were actually in Kemet. And so, who exactly or what exactly are these gods? And one of the things or one of the truths about Kemetism, maybe I'm wrong, you can tell me, is that there is a pantheon and there is a myriad of many gods. And so, and even Kemetism itself has got varied practices of worship and even philosophies and stuff like that. So from these varied or from this pantheon of gods or a myriad of gods, which one exactly do we know it is true, and how do we know if any of these gods are true, or are they just like human formulations? Because according to what I see this just as human formulations, and we really have got no basis for that. And how do we know if which one is true? So let me hear your comment on that.
So in Kemet, I don't think there was worship, but there was pouring of libations. And you know, when you make a good move, that's something that it may be an opinion from your ancestors. Ancestors may be leading you to the right way. So there was no worship in Kemet. The things that the gods were used as explanations, spiritual explanations by the priests. So there's something like miracles. Miracles did not physically exist. They were just explanations by the priests. They drew the images of the temples and the pyramids, and even in the tomb of Amen, there's Amen Ra. There's a spiritual explanation of somebody carrying a lamb. That was a priest. He drew his image drawing a lamb. The story of Asa, Heru, and the rest is giving the gift to the newborn. Amen Ra to Horus. That was an explanation of giving wisdom and knowledge to the newborn. That was not something physical. It was just spiritual explanation by the priests to make people understand to honor the nature, because Amen Ra was the sun god. So it was showing the people to honor the sun, and Heru was the moon god, was the sky god, not moon.
So
Sky
10
god,
minutes left. 10 minutes left for the discussion session. And remember, it's supposed to be a back and forth, not it's not another opening statement. So try to do more of a back and forth than just one person taking a long time speaking. Okay.
So the people are not gods. They were just explanations of nature, how to honor nature, but not worship nature, not worship people. So they were just, the priest just used them as spiritual explanations to make people understand nature and honor nature, especially the sun and the stars and the sky.
Right, and that is
So this,
I'm saying that is
yes,
exactly what I was talking about. That
yes.
you because in your conversation you mentioned them as gods, and then now you're
They were,
telling me now you're telling me that they were not actually gods. They were.
They had to explain human beings as gods to make people understand, because they were kings and pharaohs were the ones who were called gods, so that to make people, the priests use them to make people understand how to honor nature.
So they are not even so they are not true in that case. These were just explanations.
Yeah, there was just explanation, but they were called gods, small g. People understand.
Yeah, so that is what I'm talking about. So in other words, you're granting they were not true. They were just but explanations that the priests were
Yes, the
actually.
human explanation. Yeah.
And there were so many of them, and the practices were varied. You cannot actually be able even to know which one is true. Now let me also make another comment here. You said that yours has got Kemetism has got evidence, and Christianity has got no evidence. And the many things you have said about Moses never existed, even Jesus never existed. In fact, I'll be so surprised for a person in this century to say that Jesus never existed now, because that means that you probably have not come across history, because we not only need the Bible. We don't even need the Bible to know that Jesus existed. That is a historical fact, and eyewitnesses were there. And I'm surprised, like you can say, the gospel writers never existed, when historically we know they did. And we have people who have wrote about Jesus who are not actually Christians themselves in that sense. And Josephus is like one of them. We have Tacitus is like one of them. Phlegon is one of them. These are people who mention Jesus in their historical documents. And then another thing is, as I mentioned in my presentation, is that the evidence for the resurrection is the existence of the Christian church from the first century. What explains the existence of the Christian church if it is not actually the resurrection? So, Interceder, is Kemeticism a religion?
No, it's not a religion, spirituality.
It is spirituality. So what is the
Yes.
difference between religion and spirituality?
The difference there is that there was no worship in Kemet.
So in Kemet there is no worship.
Yes, there was no worship.
Okay. All right. And you also mentioned something about Abraham is the one that the Christian says that Abraham is the one who invented circumcision. Where do you get that?
I get it from historical facts. It's carved on stone by various
historical facts are you talking about?
Yes.
I mean, what historical facts are you talking about? Because you say that Abraham is the one who invented circumcision. You say Christianity claims that Abraham is the one who invented circumcision. We don't make that claim, by the way. We don't make that claim.
The Bible, the first person to circumcise his son.
That is not what the Bible says. I'll be glad for you to show me where exactly you're getting that. And
you know,
so we have 5 minutes left.
comes in the story of Abraham. Before that, there's no record of circumcision.
So 5 minutes left.
And so, okay. My point is Christianity never makes an argument of whether Abraham invented circumcision or not. So I don't know where you're actually getting that. And I'm also wondering if you really understand Bible history, because you kept on saying this has been copied from Moses never existed. They were copied from what? I mean, you were saying a lot of things, and I was not even able to follow clearly and understand. I mean, what exactly is Kemeticism, and what does it have to say about reality? And if you followed my presentation very well, I explained vizuri about how the origin of human beings and how everything flowed from the beginning. But I didn't hear that from your presentation, and I was wondering what exactly is Kemetism and what does it have to say about reality and the way we see the world as it is. So maybe you can make a comment on that.
Okay, Kemet is the land of blacks, and black people lived in Kemet from the first to the ninth dynasty before the invasions came in. And in Kemet is where we got a lot of historical records. We got that's where the continuation of the pharaohs. The first pharaoh in Kemet was the second dynasty. The first one was in ancient Sudan. And Kemet has gave us a lot of evidence about religions. In the pyramids is where we see how the evidence is carved on stones. So the religion took it from there. That's why ancient Kemet is very important in history, and it was a civilized place. There were universities, various things, even Freemason originated from Kemet. A lot of history is from Kemet. But there are other parts of Africa, but in Egypt is where we found out that we were conquered by religions which copied the spirituality of Kemet. They copied our stories to colonize Africans. That's how Kemet is so important. It gives us, it opens our eyes, and it liberates us. The history liberates us from the colonization and the evil that collaborations and the mental slavery. Religions come with mental slavery. Mental slavery by making us don't know our past, making us forget our history, making us very easy to be enslaved and very easy to be controlled. Religion is a tool of control.
My point is,
yeah?
my point is all those things you were saying about history and all those things. Of course, we have a lot of history, okay, and Kemetic, if Kemetic has got history, I mean, we have history from many sources. We have history from Christianity. We have history from many other sources. So I'm just wondering, those things you're saying about history and all those things, I mean, how does that make Kemetism true? I mean, that is the thing I'm actually struggling to understand here.
Because there are some people who actually exist whose born tests have been done, like Osiris, Mentuhotep.
1 minute left, and we get into Q&A.
Okay. People like Mentuhotep, people like Osiris, they have their bone samples done, and they existed in flesh, and they were black people. And the bone sample of Osiris was taken from Sudan. Mentuhotep was taken from Egypt because he was a pharaoh. Before they moved to Sudan is when the Osiris existed. If they existed in flesh, that shows that they really existed. And there are artifacts, very old artifacts, that even they were shot down by the colonizers. because they were too old, and the Europeans didn't want ancient Kemet to be seen as a very old civilization.
Well, maybe
All right, I
maybe
think I can say
understanding you here.
that that is the end of the discussion, and I think it was eye-opening, and I guess so. Maybe what we're trying to do currently is get into Q&A, and so like maybe there are some here in the Zoom who have asked some questions. So I will ask some question in the Zoom that I've seen come here, and then I will also ask something from YouTube. So I will start, because you have only 10 minutes for Q&A. So like, hopefully you can give very quick responses. Like by quick, I mean 15-second responses, so that we can have as many questions coming in. So the first one is for the Interceder. So someone is asking, is there any scholarly material, like a journal, like, for example, we have science journals like Nature, we have astronomy journals, we have like history journals, things like that. So like, is there any scholarly material that analyzes and gives validity to Kemet philosophy? Interceder.
There are some books that I recommend. I recommend a book called Chronology of Kemet by Duncan MacNaughton, Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, J. Cantor Diop, Black Civilization, and then I recommend another book called Africa Before Slavery by Dr. John Henry Clark. I recommend another book by the name The Nile Valley by Anthony Broder.
Okay, I think those can be sufficient. I don't know if Ben might want to respond so that we can get to another question.
Well, those are like just what do I say, books written and stuff like that. But what exactly are the sources, historical sources? And I probably want to know when were these books written that he's actually talking about, but that's fine.
Okay. The sources
okay, no, Interceder, there is no response. So in this one, after you've responded once, there is no further response. This is only Q&A. So it's this one, there is no discussion here now. Here's just one question, you respond, and then someone else comments, and then we go to the next question. So now the next question is now for Ben.
Okay.
So someone is asking that, so the secular Kenyan is saying that they think Jesus as a person existed, a Jewish rabbi who spoke the truth to the Roman authority, and they therefore decided to eliminate him. That turned him into an important figure among Jews later on. And then, so I don't know if the secular Kenyan was trying to make a case for the historicity of Jesus. Okay. Then again, there's another comment he makes that Moses never existed. You can easily derive that from the Bible. So how do you explain the fact that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, yet it's the same book that tells us how and where he died? So I guess maybe just say something about Jesus and Moses quickly, and then maybe the Interceder can comment.
Okay, the existence of Jesus is a historical reality. I mean, that one cannot, it is incontrovertible that Jesus actually existed. And I'm glad he said that he was eliminated, but the question you should be asking is why was he eliminated? And about Moses, about him writing the first 5 books of the Old Testament, I think he misunderstands inspiration, that God can still inspire. God inspired Moses to record the history of the things that actually happened before his existence. And so that is what I will say. So Moses actually existed, but he was inspired to write those books. But I think it is only Genesis, part of Genesis account that he did not take. He was not actually there, so I will say so. But he was inspired. Yeah.
Interceder, you want to comment on the existence of Jesus and Moses very quickly, like 15 seconds alone.
Okay, if Jesus existed and did all the things that the Bible says, there will be statues of him everywhere. Especially Jesus spent a lot of time in Egypt. There will be statues of him if he was a teacher in the temples of Kemet. And then Moses was copied from Ramesu, Amos, and Heru. The birth of Jesus and Moses look similar because Moses and Jesus had to escape when they were born because there were some people who were trying to kill them. The same thing as Heru. Heru was hidden at the papyrus by his mother Ase because his nephew Seth wanted to kill him.
Oh.
So that's something copied from Kemet.
Okay, all right. Let's go to the next question. And I guess I think there was a question that was sent. Can I see it? I think it was only that one. That one for the scholarly material. So I guess I'll just go to the other one. I think most questions are towards Ben. So there's a comment here. I think Interceder has done a very good job from showing Christianity is a copied religion from other ancient religions. But he can't prove Kemet is true. He can only demonstrate that it's older. Okay, so I think both of you can comment. So like, is it that Kemet is only trying to show Christianity is a copy, but it cannot demonstrate that it and of itself as a worldview is true? And so it is only demonstrating that it is older, but it's not demonstrating that it is true. Like, I don't know, maybe Ben, you can comment. And I think this will be the last question because of time. Ben, just comment on that. Like, is it that Kemet is true? Is it that Kemet is older and we copied from them, but we can't know if it's true or what's going on?
I can't really say that Christianity copied from Kemet, because if you read and understand biblical history, you will see a very consistent history. And even if we grant, for the sake of argument, that the things Christianity has were copied from Kemet, how does that in itself invalidate the truth of Christianity? And how does that in itself prove the truth of Kemet? And so understanding biblical history clearly says that Christianity is not like a copied religion. You can consistently see things flowing through from the beginning up to Christ. And so that is what I will comment about that. I'm just struggling to understand what exactly Kemet is.
Okay, and I guess maybe Interceder, you can help. Yeah, I guess you can also answer the question. Is it that Kemet is a copy? Just a second. Yeah, is it that yeah, like Kemet is a copy, and but no, as in Christianity is a copy of Kemet, but now we can't know whether Kemet is true. Like, if someone told you, prove to me Kemet is true, how would you answer that question, Interceder? And you have only 1 minute, and then we get into the final statements.
Okay, Christianity is a copy of Kemet. There are various things copied from Kemet and other parts of the world, but mainly Kemet. First of all, there is the Ark, something called Ankh. That's the symbol of life. It was taken wrong by the Christians. They used it as the cross, as the symbol of death. Another thing is that the sign of resurrection that represent Christianity, the early Christians, that sign of resurrection was taken literally from the spiritual resurrection of the penis of Asa. So that was taken. The symbol of Asa was made by the priest to explain something about resurrection and eternity to the ancient Egyptians. So that was copied by Christianity, and even used in various churches. And there are proofs in Kemet. There are some hard evidence. There are some artifacts. There are some carvings on the walls, especially in the pyramids and temples. And there are some images in those temples, and there are some people existed in flesh, including Osiris.
All right. Okay. Because of time, we don't want to have too long a conversation. Remember that having a timed thing. Huh? So right now, what we will do is we are having a final statement of 1 minute, and I'm hoping you guys will be able to do a final statement of 1 minute. Huh? And so this final statement, we will start with the interceder, and I hope you'll do 1 minute, strictly 1 minute.
Okay.
So like in 1 minute, I want you to explain why Kemet is true, how Christianity copied from Kemet, and how Kemet will help Africa. 1 minute, strictly 1 minute, not anymore. Okay, so when you start, I'll start the timer.
In history, we compare something that has evidence and something that doesn't have evidence, something that has a little evidence or no evidence, and something that has a lot of evidence. The one that has a lot of evidence is true. And then Christianity is fake because when it started, they killed people who rejected it because they knew that it was copied, and the people who were killed were ancient Egyptians. When they were developing the Romans were developing the character of Jesus, they killed a lot of Egyptians because they say they knew those stories. It was their story, and it was copied to Christianity.
Interesting. Oh, you actually finished before a minute was over. That is good. So now, Ben, you also have 1 minute to explain why is Christianity true, whether it was copied from Kemet or not, and how Christianity is going to help Africa. So when you start speaking, I'll start the time.
All right. I think from my presentation, I clearly demonstrated answering the question of origin, answering the question of the brokenness of the world, because that's the reality, and answering the question of redemption of the brokenness that we see in the world. And I actually pointed out the reality of Jesus Christ as a historical figure, and he existed. We have the reality of the eyewitnesses, the existence of Christianity in itself, what explains the existence of Christianity. And then another thing that I will add, which was not probably there, is, for example, Kemet doesn't have scriptures, isn't it? But in Christianity, we have our scriptures, and we have like biblical manuscripts that we can look at.
10 seconds left.
And compare. And so Christianity will liberate Africa because it brings transformation to the hearts of men, and that is what we really need. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, guys. And we can call this another debate done. And I know this one was a bit of a new thing. But I guess at the end of the day, like we never really, just a second. Let me get something here. Wait, just a second. Okay, so as I was saying, is that the particular debate is over, and so we are discussing today about just what Kemet is, its relationship with Christianity. We were supposed to, I guess, speak on atheism a bit, but I guess time would definitely not have allowed. There's just too much going on. And I guess we did speak about the continent, and I guess it also affects the African diaspora, I guess probably even more than us. For us, maybe we might think this is like something that is out there, but I guess the African diaspora, this is something that they deal with a lot. So I guess maybe you can, before you leave, you can always like the video and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the African Debates channel. And you can also, share this. so that people can know that there's a place where believers and unbelievers in Africa and the African diaspora can talk about Christianity and attitudes different from Christianity or antithetical to Christianity, and just have the discussions. And so this is where we do it. And I think, I don't know if Interceder wanted to share anything about, well, not a long time, like just to advertise something. Like, for example, I know Ben wants to say something about a conference coming up. So maybe Ben, you can say something about the Apologetics Kenya conference. Interceder would have something to advertise, not to say about the topic, but just to advertise, and then we end.
Okay. Yeah, we have a conference coming up from 21st to 25th with Apologetics Kenya, and we'll be talking and addressing these issues there. So if you go to our website, as Charles is showing here, yes, we'll be talking about identity, and as you can see from the discussion, this is one of the things we are talking about, and so we'll welcome us to join us. If you just go to our website, you'll be able to see and register and come and let us talk and be able to discuss more of such things and see how Christianity stands out as a truth to be reckoned with in this world. Yeah. So thank you. Welcome. I'm hoping to see all of you there, or quite a good number of you. Even Interceder, you're welcome to join. Thank you.
All right, Interceder, do you have anything to maybe just say about Kemet in Kenya or Africa? Not like about the topic, just a 15-second thing you want to say before we close?
I have nothing to say. No.
Oh, nothing, huh?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's okay. So I guess we can consider another podcast done. And yeah, so you can go back. There's an archive of previous debates we've had. And in fact, right now, we are actually live streaming. And if you want to see more, you can go to the YouTube page. And it seems there's a bit of net issue, but you can just go to the YouTube page and you will see more past discussions. Otherwise, thanks for joining, and we will see you in the next event. Have a nice evening. And I guess it's Halloween for some. For some, it is Reformation Day coming up soon.